The 14th year of Chenghua. Chapter 139. Extra Domineering. The stars and moon in the sky were not yet gone, the world was still pitch black. At this period, most people should be in dreamland, out cold, but there was a group of people already dressed up neatly, on their way to participate in a court meeting. Tang Fan had gotten to bed late last night, his energy a bit lacking. As he now sat in a litter, swaying, his tiredness surged up in bursts, and he unwittingly fell asleep. Within his daze, he only felt the litter suddenly stop, the motion a bit more abrupt than was typical. Unable to stop his own inertia, Tang Fan's body pitched forward, and he knocked into a convex wooden roof beam, which happened to hit upon the hardest edge of his official's cap. He sucked in a cold breath out of pain. Any sleepiness he had flown off to the clouds of the ninth firmament. He took off his cap to rub his head. Thankfully, it wasn't bleeding and was just bruising. A faint clamor was heard outside, followed by a litter-bearer's voice. "Sir, we can't proceed ahead. Should we take a detour?" Tang Fan lifted the curtain. A burst of chilled wind swept in at once, the cold making him shiver and clearing his head. "What's going on? It looks like people are quarreling." Furrowing his brow, Tang Fan poked his head out to look. There was another litter blocking the way in front, its owner unseen. No wonder his own litter-bearers had stopped so hurriedly. They would have bumped into each other if they had gone any further. "Go and see what's going on," he ordered. A litter-bearer agreed and wound around the litter in front to probe the source of the issue, then returned not long after. "Sir, there really are people arguing." Tang Fan was a bit surprised. "Who?" At this session, there should reasonably only be officials hurrying to court. Everyone served in the same court, seeing each other with a raise of the head, and they should always be polite. It was impossible for there to be a traffic jam, but there had always been exceptions. It seems that Assistant Minister Li of Rights bumped into Right Capital Censor Chiu's litter, and the two sides are arguing. Assistant Minister Li was Li Zishan and Censor Chiu was Tang Fan's teacher, Chiu Jun. "Is my mentor all right?" Tang Fan quickly said. "He is." "Mr. Chiu is scolding Assistant Li," the litter-bearer answered cautiously. As soon as he heard this, Tang Fan knew what was going on, and laughed bitterly soon after. Chiu Jun was unused to people that got by on luck, like Li Zishan. Assistant Minister of Rights was a third-rank spot that others dared not rashly provoke, but a true second-rank capital censor like Chiu Jun would not fear him. On typical days, it was hard for him to get the chance to scold him, and even if he did, the emperor might not take him seriously. Now that he had managed to snatch an opportunity where Li Zishan was in the wrong, Chiu Jun was naturally not going to let it go. Furthermore, Censor Lin Jun of the inspectorate had been imprisoned because he had denounced Li Zishan, Ji Xiao, and the like. This was something that old man Chiu had always resented. Because he knew his mentor's temper well, Tang Fan did not need to witness the scene in person to have linked most of the events together. He waited for a good while. Seeing that the litter ahead had no intention to get on its way, he could only dismount and walk forth in the snow. Not too far ahead, he saw two litters clashing in the middle of the road. Chiu Jun was standing beside them, spittle flying all over as he quoted verses to verbally abuse Li Zishan. The latter was not a palace honorate, nor was he well learned, but that didn't mean that he was afraid of Chiu Jun. His expression was arrogant, the way he looked telling that he placed no importance upon Chiu Jun. 8 people circled the two, all of them officials that had been going to court but been blocked part-way through. They were all in a hubbub, mostly attempting to get Chiu Jun to calm down. If they didn't persuade him, none of them could move. Who wanted to spend much more time in the snow, in such cold weather? Also, if they were late without cause, they would get the rod, as well as salary deduction. Everyone worked hard every month for that little money. If they even get deducted, they would not be able to live their lives. Seeing the onlookers blindly persuading him, Jun instead grew angrier. Do you all not think that I want to leave? He broke my litter by bumping into it, and my litter bearers are injured and unable to get up. Everyone poked their heads out to look, and wouldn't they know it? The two litters had somehow collided so terribly. Li Zixin's litter had one of its rear supporting beams missing, while Jun's had fallen askew to the ground, one side of it smashed from the pressure. Thankfully, the old gent had left it speedily, else he would have been injured along with it. Like so, the two litters were blocking the middle of the road, the ones behind them unable to get through. Hearing Jun's statement, Li Zixin sneered. Search you, that's so unreasonable. It was clearly your litter bearers that were in too much of a hurry, wanting to pass by my litter, only to bump into it and overturn. You didn't express your status. How were my litter bearers to know that you were sitting in it? This humble official's litter is also ruined. Who is going to compensate for that? Don't speak nonsense. Jun raged. My litter bearers have been with me for many years, and could not be more steady on the regular. Why would he hit you because he was rushing? Clearly, you were walking too slowly. My men feared that I would miss court time, which was why they were forced to speed up. You're in a hurry to get to the court, so am I not also? The snowy road is slippery, why not let people walk a little slower? Li Zixin strangely mocked. Why trouble yourself with being so angry at your age? Even if you hurry, you won't be getting into the cabinet, so what's the use in doing it? Jun was intensely furious. You shameless, flattering, lucked-out fool. Hearing that, Tang Fan had to step up. It was hard to tell who was more correct in the collision just by listening, but Tang Fan knew well that this trivial matter had only been a fuse. Because Jun and Li Zixin represented two sides that mixed like fire and water, they had been watching each other without relent, and only ceased today to explode. However, as more and more litters came up behind them with the two continuing to fight, many people here would be at a loss. They would not be late for no reason, but it would generally be embarrassing. Shufu, he said. Everyone turned to look. Goodness, Solon Tang was here. They quickly cleared him a path, cupping their hands and greeting him all the while. At the thought that Solon Tang might also be late because of this, they all became less anxious, with a feeling of having someone tall to bear the collapsing sky. He smiled at them, nodding to return the courtesies. While he had no high and mighty airs of a minister, he also did not indiscriminately lower his posture to garner good impressions. Were it to be said that some people of this world could enchant someone with one look, Tang Fan would be one of them. 5 or 6 years ago, he might not have had such a presence, changed with the times. In addition to his appearance, mannerisms, and knowledge, the changes brought by his status were quite important, his heart and courage even more so. The scope of one's vision determined what height they would stand at, as the saying went. The heart influenced perception. Even though Wanan was the head of the cabinet and of tall, sturdy stature, if he stood together with Tang Fan, he would be a rank inferior to him in terms of bearing and behavior. That rank emitted from the inside to the outside, formless and difficult to describe. Upon seeing Tang Fan, Jun's expression eased some, then tensed up again once he remembered that Li Zixin was still here. Tang Fan didn't wait for Jun to speak, saying to Li Zixin, assistantly, since the litters are already broken, more talk will do nothing. It's dark out, and the road is slippery. If this is dragged out, we really will be late. You should have your subordinates lift the litters away now, so that the people behind you can pass. Li Zixin could pay Jun no heed, but he couldn't afford the same thing with Tang Fan. That stemmed from the latter's influencing power in court gradually strengthening, to where he had surpassed his mentor, having vaguely turning into a notable figure amongst several branches of officials 11 years of Chenghua prior. Your order is something this humble official dares not disobey, Solon Tang, but 2 of my 4 litter bearers were injured, and I ordered them to return home, Li Zixin answered. The remaining 2 will likely not be able to lift the litter. Not replying to that, Tang Fan looked at his own litter bearers and said, "Go lend his people a hand." Since he was of the idea to pacify everyone, the mentor could not refute the prestige of his own disciple, so Qiu Jun told his own litter bearers to help, sullen-faced. Under the focused efforts of several people, the two litters were shifted to one side. Everyone let out a sigh of relief. Tang Fan let them all go ahead. Too afraid of being late, they had no will to be modest, successively boarding their litters and leaving after quick apologies. "How about you take this disciple's litter for court, Shu Fu?" Tang Fan asked Qiu Jun. The other shook his head. "No need. This old man will get a new one rented." Tang Fan laughed. "It's not dawn yet, who would be lending litters? Don't be so courteous to me. It's easier for me to do things since I'm young, while you can't bear the cold at your age." Saying so, he half forced, half supported him onto his litter, then ordered the litter bearers to carry his teacher to the palace gates. He watched it leave, then turned to the unhappy-looking Li Zishan with a smile. "Assistant Minister Li, do you want to wait for a litter with me, or will you walk to court?" Li Zishan forced out a smile. "This humble official will walk, lest I be late." "Farewell, sir." Tang Fan didn't keep him, nodding. "Do as you will, then." The accumulated snow was not deep, and one could still walk, if they wanted to. However, in the midst of that walking around, one would inevitably get their shoes and socks soaked through. Tang Fan preferred to wait a bit more, unwilling to wear a pair of damp socks all day. That was a special kind of torture. He stood beneath the eaves of someone's street-side home, watching Li Zishan walk unsteadily away with the help of his servants, and then his line of sight shifted to the messed-up litters at the roadside. Something seemed to flit past his mind, but he couldn't snag it in time. The Tang household had only one litter for use, thus his litter-bearers returned to the neighboring Sui home to borrow theirs. This come and go left him waiting nearly half a shishan before they came carrying a litter. The Great Ming's court assemblies were divided up into the Great Court, the New Moon Court, and the General Court. The Great Court assemblies were held every time there was a majestic holiday, and the New Moon Court opened on the 15th day of the first month in ordinary times. They were usually general courts. Ever since Yongl's era, the general court had gradually turned into a ritual. Everyone would come for roll call, listen to some drivel, then go their separate ways, returning to their bureaus for duties. When Tang Fan's litter stopped at the palace gate, the sky slowly brightened, the streets became lively and the snow began to melt beneath the sunlight's splendor. Bursts of cold seemed to pierce through fur cloaks, right to the bones. The general court's daily routine was probably long over by now. Tang Fan had no intent to gather in on the excitement, instead going straight to the pavilion of literary profundity. However, the second he entered the palace gate, he was blocked. He slightly raised his brows. "What is it? You've all gone one day without seeing me and you already don't recognize me." The other quickly smiled at him. "How could that be, Solon Tang? Don't lower yourself to this lowly one's level." Word came down from higher up that too many people were late today, which angered His Majesty. He said that everyone that was late is to stand outside to clear their heads. This lowly one dares not disobey. Tang Fan was a little surprised. "Where are Censor Qiu and Assistant Minister Li? Have you seen them?" "Yes. They went in, arriving half a shishan earlier than you, right before they would be late. The ones after them were not so lucky, as they've all been pulled to the side and received the rod. As this lowly one sees it, you should take the day off and not go in." According to national court rules, being late for no reason meant 10 strikes with the rod. If a dignified Solon was to take his pants off in public view and be beaten, what a riot that would be. Tang Fan would probably not go out in public for a month. However, the current emperor was laid back and soft-natured. Beatings for lateness hadn't happened in a long time, with salary deduction being the penalty at most. Why was today an exception? Why is His Majesty angry? "Do you know?" he asked. The guard shook his head. You must be trying to confound me. With this lowly one's status, how would I know of that? However, continuing to stand here idly was not an option. Tang Fan thought for a bit, then said, as that's the case, go on and tell your superior that I said. Before he could finish speaking, someone called from behind him, Runking. Tang Fan looked back to see a litter carried up by jogging, panting litter bearers stop not far from him, after which someone came out of it, hurried towards him a few steps. It was Lu Jian, his fellow cabinet member. The man was over 50 and thin, but his energy was high, paired with a tall stature and jet black hair. There was not a bit of aged air about him, making him look to be in his early 40s. Tang Fan paused to cup his hands towards him. Brother Huayan. Despite being 20 years apart in age, they were both of the cabinet, and thus were in equal positions of seniority. Reasonably, that would mean he only needed to call him by his courtesy, but for the sake of expressing esteem for his predecessor, he used his name. Lu Jian wiped sweat off his forehead. Why are you late, too? Tang Fan smiled bitterly. It seems that today was a bad one for travel. Then, he turned to the palace guard. See if we can get some accommodation to let us both in, so that we can explain and apologize to His Majesty ourselves. Seeing that another Solon had shown up instantly, the other felt it odd, thinking to himself, what kind of day is today? Will another one show up? Stopping the empire's viziers outside the palace gates is a really huge joke. He looked awkward. Forgive me, sirs. It's a really strict order from above, and we act according to orders. We dare not disobey in the slightest, else you too will be fine, while us on duty will be punished. Lu Jian was a generous person. Hearing so, he said to the guard, go in and help us with giving a report. We'll wait right here. The other agreed, leaving his companion to stand watch while he turned and went in himself. It was coldest when the snow was melting. Even though they were wrapped in thick fur cloaks and cotton-padded garments were beneath their official uniform, that could stop the chill from boring into their clothes. They stood at the doorway, rubbing their hands together and stomping their feet to dispel the cold. How did you only just get here, Brother Huayan? Tang Fan asked. Lu Jian smiled bitterly. Oh, it's nothing. On the road from my home to the court, for some reason, someone was digging a ditch early in the morning. The road block aside, one of my litter bearers fell into it, so I had him go home to find someone else, then take a long route around before I could get here. The second he finished speaking, he noticed that Tang Fan's expression was a little off. What is it? Tang Fan told him his own reason for being late. Neither of them were slow. Mentally comparing the pair of events, how could they not notice the coincidence and oddity between them? Lu Jian grabbed the remaining palace guard to ask, apart from us two, have the other cabinet members gotten in? Not getting it, the guard answered truthfully. All of them did. How about Solon Su? He went in, too. Yes, early this morning. Lu Jian and Tang Fan exchanged a look. Runking, do you think this is? Let's go in and see before anything else, Tang Fan answered gravely. Seeing that their expressions were poor, as if they wanted to barge in, the guard quickly said, Sirs, please don't make things harder for this lowly one. My brother has already gone in to make a report, and will likely return soon. Please wait. After we go in, we will apologize to His Majesty. There is no need for you to take responsibility, Lu Jian answered. Saying so, they strode forth. The guard could do nothing, wanting to stop them but too afraid to, fearing that his weapon would injure the two viziers, which would only result in him being the unlucky one. Halt! After the two had gone just a few steps, they saw a small squadron of imperial bodyguards enter from far away. They stopped, awaiting their approach. Nevertheless, these ones were not as eloquent as the palace gate guards, expressionless, as if they wouldn't even recognize their close relatives. Even if Tang Fan and Lu Jian stated their identities, they would still request that they return to being outside the palace gate, not bust in. Lu Jian was enraged. "We are established members of the cabinet, but now we have to listen to your orders. Whether this is actually an order from His Majesty or not, we will possess that knowledge once we meet him. Now go." Their counterpart did not go, nor did he look afraid, only cupping his hands. A verbal command was indeed issued from His Majesty. This lowly one would not dare to falsify a decree. "Please forgive us, sirs." Lu Jian was about to get angrier, but Tang Fan stopped him, asking the bodyguard's leader, "Did you personally hear His Majesty speak it?" "I did." "When he said it, who was at his side?" The other was unsure of Tang Fan's intentions, hesitating on whether he should answer that, but seeing the cold, harsh look in Tang Fan's eyes that could turn into a sharp edge, his heart thudded, and he automatically answered, "Assistant Minister Li Zishan of Rights was also present." "That bastard!" Lu Jian nearly spat out that curse, narrowly tamping it down. He was not Qiu Jun, in any case he wouldn't be losing his temper. Even so, his expression became quite unsightly. As Li Zishan was a high official of the Ministry of Rights, it was completely justifiable for him to request that the emperor punish late-goers with the excuse of correcting proper etiquette. Why had he chosen today to do it, though? To hinder Tang Fan and Lu Jian? They had previously believed that something had happened inside the palace, but with a careful thought about it, they knew that that was impossible. In spite of the current emperor abandoning governance more by the day, in this court, especially following Yingzong's era, forcing an abdication in rebellion was a situation that couldn't happen. Since nothing had happened on the emperor's side, something had to have happened in the cabinet. With a deeper layer of thought, based on their comprehension of Wan'an, if there was a major event that required cabinet consensus to pass, he knew that Lu Jian and Tang Fan would never agree to it, and would definitely do what he could to cast them out. As soon as they were, Lu Ji was a fence-sitter, and Su Pu was bad at warring with words. The cabinet's game would be one-sided. Wait, and that rice would be cooked even if the two of them did object. Then, it would be too late. That in mind, the two of them changed directions. Instead of asking after punishment statues, they went straight for the pavilion. The imperial bodyguards had their duties, yet also couldn't stop them, only able to follow after them, shouting as they pursued, "Slow down, sirs! Wait!" But the two ignored them, striding forth. One in back and one in front made a very comical scene. However, in the pavilion of literary profundity, there was another scenario going. The emperor not coming to today's general court was something everyone was used to. After the formalities, they all had gone back to their respective bureaus, while Wan'an gathered up the cabinet members for a discussion, its contents happening to be related to the spurt of celestial phenomena. His gaze swept over Vice-Vizier Lu Ji, then rapidly, yet meticulously, took in the expressions of everyone in a brief time, then landed upon the two empty spots to the left and right of Su Pu. After a short moment, he took it back. The heavens showed bizarre signs in quick succession. The whole nation is on edge. I presume that all of you have come to know that, as well. Upon giving his opening statement, he saw that no one had an answer, so he continued. You all must have also heard about the Crowned Prince sending an apology memorial. We, as subjects, should observe the thoughts of those above, being worried about what His Majesty is worried about, and thinking of what he thinks. Even if he has said nothing, we ought to understand at heart. Those words were superfluous, they sounded mysterious at first, but everyone here was an old piece of fried dough that had stewed in officialdom. Many words did not need to be explained. Lu Ji, for example, understood at once. Wan'an was trying to use this opportunity to unite the cabinet in urging the emperor to depose the crown prince. No wonder Lu Jian and Tang Fan weren't here today. He cursed the two out on the inside, thinking that they had received the news earlier and therefore avoided it on purpose. Little did he know that their litters had been obstructed. He was not of the Wan group, nor was he Crowned Prince's faction. He didn't get on with Wan and typically judged things based on a situation's momentum, basically landing on whatever side the wind was blowing. For things like today's event, had he known this weather ahead of time, he wouldn't have come to court at all, claiming sick and staying home to avoid the headache. When the time came, if the Crowned Prince didn't fall, he would not offend him, and if the Prince of Scene could ascend, he would send a memorial congratulating the new Crowned Prince for his might. Neither side was to be offended. That was how one got to be an official for a long time. Wan suddenly making this move today had caught some completely unawares. Deeply shrewd, Lu Ji still had no reaction, but Su Pu was completely dumbstruck, his astonishment unconcealed on his face. Wan pretended to not see their reactions, continuing to speak on his own. Peng Hua and Yin Ji had long made mental preparations, faces as calm as ever. I drafted a memorial that is ready to be presented to His Majesty. Take a look, all of you. If you have no issue, sign your name on it, as our cabinet's joint signing. With that, he pushed his memorial forth to Lu Ji, who was on his left. With things at this point, Lu Ji had no choice but to take it. He picked up the manifest, then opened it up for a look. He found that there was not one mention of deposing the Crown Prince within, but every line alluded to the Emperor making his own conclusion and coming to a decision sooner, while also stating that no matter what he decided upon, the cabinet would support it and such. Were the Emperor to depose the Crown Prince, and the cabinet disagreed with him alongside the censors, that would be the equivalent of every level of society unanimously opposing it. The Emperor would have to consider the opinions of important subjects. However, if the cabinet stood on the Emperor's side, they could help placate the censors. No matter what fuss those below made, it had its limits. Grasping Wan An's plan, Lu Ji laughed coldly on the inside, and looked up. Yuan Weng, Lu Zixian, and Tang Runking are not yet here. A joint signing without the two of them would probably not be good. We should wait for them another day before we discuss this. Wan An's expression did not change. No need. The two have taken leave today and won't be coming, our joint signatures will be enough. His implication being that Lu Jian and Tang Fan ranked at the bottom of the cabinet, and their presence would make no difference. However, Lu Ji laughed a little. That's not right, Yuan Weng. No matter what is said, we are all cabinet members. How could they be overlooked? We'll wait for us to be all together, first. With that, he folded up the memorial, and passed it to Peng Hua next to him. The latter took it, looked at it briefly, took a brush to write his name down, bowed his head to blow on the ink, waited for it to dry some, then passed it to Yinji. Once Yinji had signed his name, the memorial returned back to Lu Ji. All eyes fell on him. Seeing that he could not get one over the Great Supreme, Lu Ji said, "How come I had no idea that the cabinet had this joint signature rule at some point? This does not comply to the rules, yes. If those below learn of this, they will only say that our cabinet is not of the mind to assist in advising His Majesty, but following blind tomfoolery. How are we not advising His Majesty?" Wanan answered indifferently. This memorial is to urge him in coming to a decision as soon as he can, and to personally settle the matter, lest rumors crop up and the hearts of the people be unsteady. It had taken him great thought to write a memorial like this. Despite the hints all over the place that the Emperor should set his mind to something soon, there was not a word about deposing the Crown Prince, leaving no worry about others getting a handle on him. To sign, or not to sign? Lu Ji was hesitating on the inside. If he didn't sign, offending Wanan was a trifle, more importantly, he would offend Consort Wan. Who didn't know that the one most hoping for the Crown Prince's deposal was her? She was a most important figure, the only one that could make the Emperor listen. If he did sign, and the Crown Prince didn't get deposed, he would then be considered an affiliate of the Wan party. What if, After his ascension, the prince added him into his list of names for purging. However, right when Lu Ji was making a difficult decision, the sound of footsteps suddenly came from outside. Everyone automatically looked up. The next moment, the door of the discussion hall opened, and Jinyue headed by Wan Tong, aggressive in their Jinyue uniforms and thick-soled boots. They did not greet the cabinet members, going around them to stand apart behind them, glaring down like predators without a single word. Lu Ji glared angrily at Wan Tong. "Envoy Wan, what are you trying to do?" This was mutiny. Wan Tong laughed in mockery. He did not have Sui Zhou's physique. The Kylin uniform bulged a bit on him. "Vice head of the cabinet Lu, you don't need to be nervous." This humble official was ordered to bring a letter. "Please, Solons, read it over. The pavilion is a private area that unrelated people are not to enter." "Who gave you the order?" "His Majesty did, of course," Wan Tong answered casually. Wanan accepted the letter, quickly looked it over, then handed it to Lu Ji. "All of you take a look." Lu Ji read it. On it was the Imperial Observatory's records pertaining to the recent celestial phenomena. According to them, during this month, comets had appeared an unusual amount, about 8, of all sizes. The one going over the North Cup that everyone was talking about was only one of many. Why would the emperor suddenly hand such a letter over for the cabinet to read? Lu Ji was inwardly frightened. Based on his own grasp on the emperor's thought process, this ought to be him wishing to depose the crown prince, which was not a good thing to blatantly state. Hence why he was hoping the cabinet would issue a memorial first, so he could push that boat along the water. Plainly speaking, he was making the cabinet help him come to a decision and share the pressure of it. Lu Ji passed the letter on to the next person, while he sat in place, not saying a word. "Everyone has other business they should be doing, and I have no desire to hold you all up," Wanan stated. "Quickly sign this memorial, so I may present it to His Majesty." His Majesty and the noble consort are scheduled to view the chrysanthemums in the southern grounds after noon. "If Yuan Wen is late in going, I'm afraid he will not be able to catch up," Wan Tong pointedly exhorted. That sentence was to remind Lu Ji of the relationship between the emperor and consort Wan. When the emperor had told Wan Tong to pass the letter along, he might not have told him to bring such a large group along, but a bunch of Jinyue were now glaring nasty-eyed at a group of cabinet members. Getting stared at made their backs feel like they were getting pricked with needles, sitting uneasily. Beneath that pressure, Lu Ji grit his teeth and signed his name. The looks on Wanan and Wan Tong's faces laxed a bit. Now, only Su Pu had yet to sign it. Wanan had no belief that Su Pu's bones would be less brittle than Lu Ji's. "Qinzai, please go ahead." Su Pu knew that he had fallen into a meticulously plotted trap today, and he shook his head. "Forgive me, Yuan Wen. I cannot sign this memorial." Wanan's expression sank. "Why?" "Because this dynasty establishes the eldest first, not the younger. The crowned prince has done no wrong, so how can he be deposed because of a prophecy? That's absurd. If anyone harbors ill intent, they should be labeled a traitorous subject, and each one punished." In the wake of those resoundingly powerful words, Tang Fan appeared in the doorway of the discussion hall, Lu Jian behind him. The light behind them caused their figures to seem to be plated with a halo of soft light. End chapter.